I think it sounds like we're ready to roll. So, I think we'll just start with we'll start with you, Lepus. So,
Oh no.
Yay!
um, uh, you've been back on the material plane. I think a little more time has passed for some of you who are have remained your characters from the previous adventure. So maybe like another month or so has gone by.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
you how have you been spending your time in El Terrell?
Well, I think Lep has mainly spent it either. I think it's mainly just trying to help people, whether that is trying his best to magically help rebuild the city or help bring about like new life and nature or just make things look nicer and like try to be a little bedazzling person. It's basically he's just doing his best to help now that he can't really, you know, help the Fae. He can help these people.
Yeah, the ever since El Terrell's returned to the material plane, uh, the restorations of El Terrell have actually been going quite well. The survivors of El Terrell, you can only linger on so long, and they have sort of rallied around each other and have started pouring their energy into returning the city to the once sort of gleaming holy place that it was before it fell to ruin down in Avernus. Older Ravengard has called upon the people of Baldur's Gate as well to assist, and many volunteers have made their way down the river Sianthar to assist in the restorations of El Terrell. And have you made any particular like new friends or anything like that in El Terrell?
I think, I mean, aside from trying to hang out with Mavithor and weirdly enough older, I kind of think he just, well, and also Phylaxis, if
Hmm.
he's still in the material plane.
He is.
I think, yeah, then I think he kind of just, is around those three. And I mean, he will always try to reach out and be like, if you want to have a little tea party, if you want some tea, I can make you some really good magical tea. Just be aware of any possible side effects.
um, you you have essentially, for the most part, felt your connection at this point to the Feywild completely severed. I think Older Ravengard has sort of taken you under his wing a bit. Uh, um, he's learned of sort of your story a little, and he's taken an interest in you. He doesn't want to, you, regardless of how you came to the Feywild, you did end up playing a hand in or not came to Avernus. You did end up playing a hand in saving El Terrell and returning it to the material plane, and you know, um, so I think you have like developed a relationship with Older Ravengard. He did gift you the breastplate that you now wear. He had it specially made and enchanted for you as a gift for your service to El Terrell. Um, and now, um, during the last month or so, Flaxus has been growing a bit restless. He's been asking you more frequently now, sort of when you're ready to pay a visit to the Feywild. He wants to travel there with you, and as a what is it called? As a warden of the Feywild, he always knows the way home, and he wants to show you how to find the Feywild, regardless of where you are.
Yeah, I think Lep has been putting it off more and more because he's just scared about how Valaxis would react to the new knowledge that he's kind of severed ties with them. But I do think eventually, maybe over like some dinner, some tea, he does spill and basically tells him everything. And it's not that he doesn't want to go back to the Feywild, he's just nervous.
Um, I am a little curious. How it goes with you trying to hang out with Mavathor. I'm a little curious with how
Yeah,
that
Lep, I don't know if Mapplethorpe still is trying to like get more like disciples for Asmodeus, but Lep is just like, so Mapplethorpe, how do you be a cleric? How does that work? Like, I
Hmm.
know I prayed a bit and I got some stuff, but there's also seems to be more to it that I don't really know. I mean, how do you pray to Asmodeus?
It's usually for your average cleric, it's more of a one-way thing of you talking to them, but given my high stature in the clergy of Asmodeus, I tend to speak with them actually fairly consistently, so I don't think there's any one true answer for what you're looking for. And
Oh,
but I mean during this past like time period since the return of El Terrell, Mavathor has been busy. He has been very, very, very busy as the new Archduke of Avernus.
Yeah, I will have some questions for you about that for sure.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I guess maybe we'll just hop over there now for a second. Where where are you ruling Avernus from, Mavathor?
I imagine he'd spend a good chunk of his time in Baldur's Gate, since that's where um he found the most acceptance of the Church of Asmodeus, but when needed, he'll gladly return to Avernus, and if any of the other archdukes want to meet with him, he'll take the long journey down the river Styx to their lair.
Um, I think that you probably have had requests from a good majority of the other lords of the nine layers for an audience, so they can most likely try and gauge how easy it'll be to knock you out of your position.
Hmm.
But um, who have you appointed as maybe like your right hand man? Do you have like a somebody you've appointed as a general or
Um,
something?
I'm pretty sure he would have took an inventory of all the current pit fiends and saw which one would be, most open to following his command.
You could really shake things up and go for one of those fire giants as well,
Yeah, yeah. But, they're good at what they do. He doesn't know how good they are at,
Sure.
command and stuff.
Um, for the most part, the devils in Avernus have been, sucking up, accommodating, trying to gauge, the same as perhaps many of the other lords of the layers are doing, as how long you're going to last here. Bell before Zariel reigned for some time. Um, I think the other question I had for you, while Zariel was Archduke, her sort of her whole sort of shtick as Archduke was, the Blood Wars. The only reason she accepted that position and was placed there was to command the armies of Asmodeus against the hordes of demons pouring out of the River Styx. Before that, Bell sort of ruled Avernus with an iron fist. He's a builder of sorts, responsible for all the machinations of his own mind that he would craft, arming, Asmodeus's armies, but also sort of forging his own side projects. What is Mavathor's thing? Like, what is your what do you want Avernus to become?
He was thinking that Avernus would definitely become a lot more fortified than it is now, because as it stands, at least from what he saw during his, initial time there, there's a lot of scattered groups and gangs of devils. So he would definitely be trying to double down on unification of as many devils as he can get. Um, and definitely taking a preparatory stance for, the next wave of whenever demons come, asking, his new forge master if she can do some research into specialized demon slaying weapons that kill them for good, i.e., banishing them and then killing them.
Ever since Zariel's return to Mount Celestia, and you accepting the position of Archduke of Avernus, as far as you can tell, the battles seems over for now. There have not even been any lingering demons present in Avernus ever since Elturel was lifted back up to the material plane.
Mm.
But you have been notified that something strange is happening there. Lemurs are no longer emerging from the river Styx. The souls of the dead that passed through Avernus are no longer coming out as new devils.
Mm.
They are
That's
now
a problem.
They are now emerging instead as spirits whose eyes glow with a magenta haze, and all of them can be identified as undead.
Are they like actively hostile, or do they
They
just
are
kind of float around?
actively hostile, and they are extremely hard to kill.
Okay.
So I guess instead of demons, perhaps Lazel, your new forge master, is now working on weapons that specialize in killing these
Yeah, that would be probably best.
dead. um,
And
is there any way? How would Mavathor try to investigate this mystery?
he'll do his research, looking at the, river Styx, seeing if, there's been any changes in the river itself. Um, maybe trying to find some like Yugolos from like Gehenna or Hades or Karsarai that maybe know what's going on, since it seems like since the river flows into Avernus from those plains. He's wondering maybe if there's something going on upstream.
Hmm. You can make an investigation check.
Okay.
You make these inquiries, and as far as is reported back to you, this anomaly is only currently happening in Avernus.
Hmm.
Um, when these spirits emerge from the river Styx, they all seem to be focused. Well, maybe that's too much information for the time being. I'll hop over to somebody else for a little bit here.
Gotcha.
Are you ready, Lilith?
I am.
Lilith, you stand on the ramparts of Castle Ravenloft. Baron Strahd holds Arena over the edge. Rain is pouring down upon the stones of the castle, and there's sort of a flash of lightning, and then shortly thereafter, thunder rumbles the entirety of Castle Ravenloft itself under your feet. You stand before Baron Strahd von Zarevich, who's holding this woman over the edge of his ramparts. Amongst you are your 3 party members, Eva, Ulrich, and Ramon. Escher is there, as well as 3 of Strahd's other brides as well. And one of your party members, Ulrich, who over the course of your adventures in Barovia has fallen in love with Irina, and he is currently pleading to Baron Strahd to not let her go. Strahd says, as Ulrich is sort of groveling before Strahd, such bravery. I applaud you all. You've come much farther than so many mortals who have stumbled into the mists of my domain. And then he looks over at you and he says, don't you think so, daughter? And Ulrich turns to look at you, and your other 2 party members turn to look at you sort of in shock and surprise.
It is true. He is my father.
Ulrich stands and he turns to face you and he says, this whole time, you've been lying to us this whole time. And Strahd says, come, Lilith, stand by my side. Though it has been a small joy toying with you all, more important matters have come up, and I no longer need these distractions.
Thought that this is absolute madness. She's not your lover.
Oh, come now, Lilith. You know what happens to my toys when I'm done with them.
She'll never be Tatiana.
He turns and looks at Irina sort of longingly as he's holding her by the throat over the edge of the ramparts, and he lets out a long, heavy sigh. He says, don't you think I know this, daughter? And he lets her go. She screams.
I turn into bats and I try to catch her.
Okay, sure. You hear her scream sort of fade away as she falls towards the ground outside of Strahd's castle. You turn into a swarm of bats and streak through the air. Your swarm flapping through the rain and the mist, and you sort of match her speed as she's falling. Make a I don't know, acrobatics check, I guess. Speed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I have advantage on. It's a 14.
I think your reaction is quick enough that you catch up to her as she falls, but you are now both very near the ground. What would you like to do?
Oh boy. Oh, I would say, could I use interception to reduce her damage taken from falling? But I don't think that'll work very well.
I mean, you could probably like turn back into you just before you guys hit the ground and use whatever that ability is to pad the damage and, fall beneath her. I don't think it's enough damage to kill you.
All right, yeah, let's do that.
All right. How tall is Strahd's castle?
It's
Very.
multiple stories at the least. Ooh.
Fall would be 114 damage.
Okay, yeah, I'm not dead. I'm just severely injured.
You hear a few of your ribs snap as just before the two of you hit the ground, you transform back into yourself, and Irina falls on top of you. I still think she takes maybe half damage from that. It's not enough to kill her, but it is enough to knock her unconscious and leave her broken and wounded.
Can I cast Cure Wounds on her?
Sure.
Okay.
You place your hand on her shoulder and cast Cure Wounds. Her eyes kind of flutter open, and she whispers a thanks in your ear. You look up and you can see Strahd with like his foot perched up on the edge of the castle, looking down over at the two of you. And then he sort of reaches his hand up towards the air, and there's another flash of lightning, and you see him draw his sword from his waist and turn towards your other companions as the thunder and lightning rumbles above you. You can feel the rain sort of pattering against your face, and then you can hear the sound of the clashing of blades back up on the ramparts as Strahd enters into combat with your three companions.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna fly back up there.
You stand up, and what do you do? Turn back into a swarm of bats?
Yeah.
Sort of like in unison with a crack of thunder, a rumble of thunder. You turn back into a swarm of bats and soar back up towards the ramparts of Strahd's castle. Mercy.
Hello.
Hello. You and your pack are currently on a top priority mission. House Thrask has tasked you with capturing the Warforged war criminal known as the Lord of Blades, and they want him alive. His last known whereabouts are in the Mournlands. You and your pack are in your ship, flying towards the Mournlands currently now. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your pack? Like who are they?
We are known as the Hellrose Pack. We're kind of professional bounty hunters. We have a specialty towards more dangerous ones or more far-reaching, especially in areas where most people do not have license to go, at least not legally. The core of it is blood family, but everyone in the crew is family regardless of race or origin.
So everybody, how many are in your pack? How many crew members do you have outside of you?
I'm thinking to man the ship and do what we do, probably at least a dozen, but that would probably fluctuate. I would say probably about a dozen core members that are there and don't rotate it in or out.
I think with the importance of this mission impressed upon you by House Thrask, you have a full boat. How do you guys go about a mission like this? What does it sort of look like as you approach the Mournlands?
We would have sent a couple scouts ahead to try and get at least a starting point. Specifically trackers who are well versed in stealth as well, under strict orders to not engage on their own. This needs to be a full-on assault for something like that, given the danger and the importance, especially if we need to bring him back alive.
So you have a couple members of your pack on the ground already that have already entered the Mournlands.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar. I'm gonna have to really refamiliarize myself with Eberron. I've been doing it a little bit. I've run like some brief games in Eberron, and I really like the world. But do you want to know anything about them? What the Mournlands are?
Yes, please. I've been reading up on the houses you mentioned,
yes,
and some things like that. But
so I'll just tell you about a little bit about kind of what's going on briefly in Eberron in general at the moment. It'll be a pretty brief overview, but currently in Eberron, it's sort of 2 years after what has been 100 years long war, and all of the nations that remain in Eberron after this war, which has been sort of an arms race. So over the last 100 years, the improvements in technology have been sort of exponential. It has gone from, over the last 100 years, sort of like a traditional fantasy world into sort of like a high technology space faring nation, and it's been about 2 years of this new accord after this 100 Years War, and this accord has been reached because something happened called the Day of Mourning, where essentially one of the nations in Eberron, the nation of Seer, was completely obliterated in the blink of an eye. And now this part of Eberron, the nation of Seer, is inside of what is now known as the Mournlands, which are the shattered remnants of this once prosperous nation of Seer, which also kind of led a lot of the technological advancements that happened over the last 100 years, especially in warfare. They made a lot of weapons, and they were kind of consistently one-upping themselves. And it was transformed into this wasteland by a mysterious sort of cataclysm, and now the land is enveloped in a perpetual gray mist that blankets everything, giving it this sort of unworldly and unsettling appearance. And so if you were sort of to see it, well, like now, how your crew is approaching in your ship, it is essentially this gray wall of mist that encompasses a big part of the landscape now. That's so thick you can't even be seen into. what you know about the Mournlands is that all the wildlife there has been mutated. The creatures that inhabit it are twisted and have sort of developed new features from the lingering effects of the cataclysm. Extra limbs, misshapen bodies, and vicious temperaments among some of them. The Mournland is also home to living spells, magical energies given form, and are mindless in their purpose. These entities roam the lands, posing danger to any who cross their path, and there's also deadly flora. All the plant life in the Mournlands is equally corrupted. Thorny and carnivorous, dangerous flora thrives in the twisted landscape. And so you have a few of your pack already on ground in this twisted place. And as you approach the Mournlands in your ship, maybe it's the first time you and your crew have actually been over here, so it's kind of like an awe-inspiring thing from the outside as you approach it. Do you want to kind of like describe your ship a little bit too? It's big enough to at least hold a crew of 12, so it's substantial.
Yeah. The ship is called the Kushi. It's painted to pretty much blend in with space, so that it's hard to see until it's kind of right up on you, to sort of mimic how the pack itself traditionally would hunt. And it has our insignia of the three-headed Cerberus on the side. It's nothing fancy. We tend to prioritize practicality over flashiness.
What kind of like systems or weaponry do you imagine that the ship has? I would say
Honestly, I'm not familiar with what that would be in here.
I would say you probably have communications and tracking systems. You probably have sort of weaponry that is more appropriate for space battling, and weaponry that's more appropriate for like ground warfare. It's like, you know, like air to surface gun and missile type stuff. As you pass into the mists of the Mournlands, you know, the crew members that you have on board are sort of like staring out the portholes, sort of in awe. You know, one of your like blood relatives is sort of mentions. They say, I've heard all about the Mournlands, but I never believed it was as bad as this. I don't think they are paying us well enough now that I've seen it for myself.
We have already accepted the job as is, and we will complete it as is.
They nod, and then another member of your crew over the intercom system that kind of permeates out through the ship, you hear them say, Mercy, we're picking something up on the radars. There's movement up ahead. Dozens.
Is it ours?
No, there's a large grouping of life forms ahead. Their signature of their life force is faint, though. I would classify them as perhaps not entirely human. And that kind of like permeates throughout the ship over the intercom system. They say, Would you like us to approach or continue with the mission?
Everyone prepare for an assault in case they try to get in our way. Monitor them, but I would prefer not to engage unless we must. Not in this place.
There's like a silence, a pause, and then they come over the intercom again and they say,
I
wait,
think your microphone's muted.
am I?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I see lip movement.
To the mic.
There we go.
They come over the mic again, and after a pause, they come over the mic again, and they say, "Wait, hold on. Something else is coming up on the radar. I believe it's what we're looking for. Something quite larger than everything else. I think it must be our. It must be our target."
Can we obtain a visual through the fog?
You sort of are in the command center, and you're looking out the window, and the fog's so oppressive that it's like you can't even see. You're kind of at this point relying on your systems for navigation, basically.
Yeah, I meant if he could get a visual through any of the systems, just to give us more of an idea rather than just blindly waiting.
Make a. I'm gonna come up with like some. I'm gonna put together like a sheet for your ship that can make checks and stuff. But for the time being, why don't you give me like a perception check for like the ship's systems? Oh, 18. Your crew, they try to focus the external cameras of the ship to get a visual on the screen of this larger entity down there. They say it's certainly giving off a signature of a warforged. But we would have to get lower, I think, to be able to see anything through this mist.
Lower us down enough that we can get on the ground and spread out. Keep the ship back up above range of being targeted afterwards.
The ship descends to a point where on the monitors there's a foggy image of a large warforged moving through the mist. They're hard to like keep the cameras on. Every now and again he'll do like a quick movement and sort of disappear out of the visual range of the camera, and but as far as you can tell through monitoring the Lord of Blades, he seems to be encircling this grouping of other entities that your systems are tracking, like he's watching them. One of the other crewmates, they say, "Oh, Mercy, I don't think we have a choice. I think we're going to have to land and disembark. We're not going to be able to bring this thing down with the ship. This is a hands-on mission."
Agreed. Everyone get into your squads. Get on the ground, find cover. Try to keep keep eyes on him.
You land the ship, and everyone gears up. You all disembark and begin to, in your squads, survey on land the Mournlands, moving towards this grouping of entities the ship picked up, and the Warforged entity that's lurking around in the mist, seemingly sort of moving around sort of the periphery of whatever these other entities are. As you approach, why don't you give me another perception check?
Yeah, I was actually going to ask if I could use my hunter's mark if I get a visual on him.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
And you still want the other perception check?
Yeah, give me another perception check. Okay, you use your hunter's mark, and as you guys are moving through the mist, there's a quick flash of movement, and in that brief moment, you hunter's mark the Lord of Blades, and he blows past you and your squad at a blinding speed. You get this brief glimpse of his white exoskeleton, and that's sort of marred and scarred from battle. I wonder if I have let me just check real quick, because I might even have through the compendium, I might be able to pull up the Lord of Blades here. Be cool if I had the handout link. I'll snip a picture of him here in a minute, but you get your hunter's mark off, and he moves off back around to the outside, and as your attention is sort of focused on the Lord of Blades movement, you hear over your communications, what the hell is that? And your attention is sort of turned back towards this other group of entities, and you guys the mist is so thick, you've wandered closer than you wanted to, and you and your squads are all now gazing upon this massive crater that's been dug in the ground, sort of all this earth that has been exhumed, and you see maybe 24 soldiers still sort of wearing battered battle gear, many of them wearing sort of futuristic helmet looking with face covers, all sort of mindlessly with their hands exhuming dirt from the ground. And what they have uncovered is this mass. The hole's probably, I don't know, 60 feet deep. They've been digging for a while, and has a fairly large circumference. And what they've exhumed is this 30-foot tall obelisk of dark stone. And somebody says something over the intercoms that's kind of scratchy, and one of the figures down in the crater, they sort of pick up on the scratchy sound of the communication kind of failing a little bit here in the Mournland. There's some kind of interference, and a couple of their heads snap around to look back up out on the level ground where you guys are all kind of now peering down at this dig site. And you can see in some of the busted, fractured visors of these two figures that turn, they have this eerie, strange sort of magenta glow in their eyes. And one of them sort of snarls, and all of the rest of them all together in unison all turn and they start scrambling up the hillside towards you and your squad. And that is where we'll leave Mercy for right now.
I will just say that she will just go, shit.
That is the appropriate response. All right. Lepis. Flaxus, has hounded you enough to the point where I think maybe you finally agreed to trepidatiously travel with him to the Feywild. What do you think?
Yeah, he does. He's scared.
Flaxus, he reassures you. He kind of puts his arm around you. He says, "Oh, come on, Lip. It's not going to be that bad." And to be honest with you, I'm just itching for home. I need to breathe in the air of the Feywild again. It's been too long. Over this course of this last month, my dreams of home have grown more and more vivid, and something there is calling to me. It's beyond time.
I mean, yeah, we should go home. I don't know. You know, Queen Titania. You know them. They kind of hold grudges. I didn't really part in the best of terms. I mean, I threw a fucking squirrel at them. I don't know how good that is, but I don't know. It'll be okay. It'll be okay.
Flaxa says, it will be okay. I think we need a good dose of home.
That would probably be a good idea. Maybe we could stop punishing my mom. Actually, I don't know about that.
If you wish, I'm more than happy to support you in that endeavor.
I don't know. It's been a while.
Well, nevertheless, whatever we do, we have to get there first. So, you guys pack up some things. Phalaxis says, it's going to take us a few days. So, bring whatever you need.
Okay.
And, essentially you guys just, like, head into the forest. And, the first day of travel goes by normally. Is there anything, you want to converse with Phalaxis about?
Lep, I think at first, just to calm his own nerves, talks way too much about the different flavors of tea and the different magical effects you can get from each flavor. And he goes on and on and on about it for a while. And I don't think he stops unless Phalaxis tells him to.
No, I don't think so. I think he encourages you through most of it. He takes like a genuine, heartfelt interest. He asks like, how did you learn to make all of these wonderful brews?
Well, part of it was because I got bored. There wasn't a whole lot to do aside from what the Archfey wanted. And then part of it was because when I went down to Avernus, I wanted something to drink that wasn't icky. And then I just came up with new stuff for my friends. Like, oh my god, like Sylvie and Krayley, I brewed them this new thing. It's like, it's called a latte. I don't know why. It might be something, but it tastes good. It's like a drink, and it's hot, but it's also kind of cold, and it has cinnamon.
Flaxus says, well, I truly appreciate your passion for teas, Lepus.
Well, it also kind of helps me connect with home.
I think that that's one thing that I really miss about the Feywild. It is a place ruled by emotion. I'm looking forward to truly feeling passion again.
I think it'll be a lot of fun.
At, at, in between talking about the different types of tea that you like to make, Flaxus tries to explain as you guys travel, like how to reach the Feywild should you ever find yourself lost. And he explains to you that it doesn't matter where you are, you can find the Feywild if you know the way, and knowing the way is really for Fey, those of the Feywild, really being in tune with yourself. And Flaxus says, I know that I don't have all the pieces of myself anymore, but I think there's enough that I can get us there. And why don't you make a perception check for me?
Yeah, of course. That's a 19.
You notice that like the first couple days of you guys traveling through the forests, you experience like regular day and night cycle, but like maybe like after a third day of travel, you notice that like the sun never really sets. It just sort of stops at sunset, and you guys travel for like another full day and a half, and it just remains kind of like sunset the entire time. And Flaxus says, I think we're getting close, Lepus. We're almost home.
Yeah. Oh, the sunset's always really nice.
He says, that's how you know that you're in the liminal space between the material plane and the Feywild. Day and night sort of fade away. Twilight is all that matters in the Feywild.
Yeah.
And the travel becomes quite pleasant. The passing of time sort of becomes a little abstract, and you guys stop to rest still, like normally, and you guys have stopped and says, I think it's going to be another half day or so, but we've been going on for some time. I think we need some rest.
That would probably be a good idea.
You guys are quiet for a time, and Falaxis says, I know you're nervous to return home. What do you most fear, Lepus, about facing the Archfey?
Well, I guess it's kind of like I forsaked them in a moment of where I was not myself. And I mean, even without my powers, I've still been able to help, and the guy upstairs seems to be nice. He hasn't talked bad to me yet, like Navathor, but he sounds like a good person, all about light and the sun. But I just don't know how they're gonna react to me, and I think that uncertainty is kind of what I'm most worried about. It's kind of like what I thought when I first saw you again. Wasn't sure what you would think of me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just rambling.
Ryan, I think your mic cut out again.
Yeah.
hear me okay now?
Yeah.
There we
Good?
go.
Okay. Thought I had solved that issue. Philaxis's brow kind of furrows a bit, and he says, I didn't want to bring it up, but it is... I do find it troubling that you've lost your powers, connection to dreams and the Fey wild.
Yeah.
But I suppose there's nothing we can do about that until we return home.
Yeah. I mean, we could try and make a case, and I don't know. The fake courts are interesting, to say the least, so maybe something could come out of it, but I don't know.
Philaxis says, I know you've been busy since we've been back, and I haven't found the proper time, but now seemed as good as any. I never properly thanked you for
Oh,
saving my life. I wouldn't be
of
here
course.
if it weren't for you.
Well, I mean, I had to. Couldn't just leave you behind. I mean, I'd already lost you once. I wasn't going to lose you again. And hey, that was the first time I ever used that spell. I really wasn't sure if it was going to work. I thought maybe you might come up as a human or a dwarf, a dragonborn, a gnome. That'd be weird if you were small. Not in a bad way, just new, unique. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. If I could go back in time, I don't think I would change anything. Well, except maybe talking to Magatho a bit more. I want to see him more, but he's so busy being down there and being like the arch devil of Avernus. Like, it's so cool. And I imagine Lep has like his fingers above his head to make like horn, sort of. Like, this is how Magatho talks, so deep and so like cool and like foreboding. He's a nice guy though.
Philaxis says, he's quite stern. I don't know if he would enjoy the raucous nature of the Feywild for too long.
Oh, I don't think so.
But who knows? I'm certainly not one to judge.
Yeah.
But I do want you to know, Lepus, that it is no small thing to give someone the gift of life. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Just making sure. He sort of yawns and he like holds out his hand, and some of the like foliage of the earth begins to like wind together and sprout some thick leaves, and he sort of forms a blanket for the two of you. He said, I don't know about you, but I need a bit of rest before we make this last leg of the journey.
Yeah, that would probably be a good idea. It's nice to have you back, Philaxis.
As the two of you sort of lay there under the eternal twilight, seeing the sun sort of dipped over the horizon. There's this sort of thin layer that separates. You can kind of barely see what's left of sort of a bit of sunlight, and there's just this sort of thin line of darkness where you can kind of see the stars, and you feel under the blanket Flaxus's like fingers kind of find your hand, and he like holds on to it.
Yeah, Lepum squeezes his hand back.
I think maybe let's take our little mid-session break here. Let's take a 5. So I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. We'll BRB.